You asked Claude about last week's traffic numbers, and it gave you a confident, completely made-up answer because it had no idea what your actual data looked like. MCP is the fix for that, and this video covers exactly what it is, how it works, and where it breaks. MCP is an open standard that connects AI to your real tools and data, not your training data, your actual stuff, and the confusion is whether it's just another API wrapper or something genuinely different. A lot of people hear MCP and assume it's just a fancier way to call an API, like a wrapper with extra steps. And if you go in believing that you'll set it up wrong and wonder why Claude still can't pull your real numbers, because the actual difference is capability negotiation, and that changes how AI connects to your tools at runtime. I looked at 4 independent sources on this, and they all land in the same place. A traditional API has fixed endpoints you call in advance, but MCP does something different, where the AI discovers what tools are available at runtime and adapts on the fly. So without MCP, Claude answers from general training knowledge, and with MCP, it reads what's actually happening in your CRM or Search Console right now. So the belief that MCP is just another API wrapper, that's a myth and a costly one if you skip it, because MCP is a capability negotiation layer, where the AI reads what's on offer today rather than what was hard-coded last year, kind of like a restaurant menu that changes daily versus one printed in stone. First question answered. MCP is genuinely different from a plain API call. I've spent a lot of time breaking my own setups with these tools before figuring out what actually works. So drop a comment below if the API versus MCP confusion has cost you time too. Alright, so now you know what MCP is, but the next thing people run into is, what are the actual moving parts? Because most tutorials throw the word server around, and suddenly it sounds like you need to spin up infrastructure. So let's make it concrete. There are 3 components, 2 transport types, and 5 ways to ship it. So here's what we've got. The MCP client is the AI app. Think Claude or Cursor. The MCP server is what exposes your tools and data, and the capabilities split into 3 types. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Tools the AI can call with your approval, resources which are file-like data, and prompts which are pre-written templates, and transport-wise local runs over STDIO, remote runs over HTTP, with 5 shipping patterns that go from a simple local script all the way up to OAuth-protected HTTP. How MCP works, totally clear and well documented, and the architecture holds up across every source I checked. The client is basically the wall socket, the server is the device you plug in, and the tools, resources, and prompts are the different things that device can do once it's connected. 2 questions answered. Now that you know how the architecture works, the question that actually matters to most people is, do I need to be a developer to use this? Because if the answer is yes, a huge chunk of people just tuned out, and the answer is more interesting than a simple yes or no. So let me show you what it actually looks like on screen. Watch what happens when you ask Claude, how did my traffic do last week? Without MCP, you get a generic answer pulled from training data, totally useless for your actual business. But with MCP connected to Google Search Console, Claude pulls your real numbers, and the setup for remote MCP is literally copying a JSON block and pasting it into Claude or Cursor. Connects immediately, no developer skills needed, and all Claude.ai plans support it. MCP in action is genuinely accessible, and I mean that. Remote MCP needs 0 developer skills. It's pretty much the same experience as connecting a new app in Zapier, where you paste a config and it just works. So 3 questions answered. And the non-developer path is real as long as you're using remote MCP and not trying to run a local server on day 1. Okay, so you can connect Claude to your real data, cool. But people still underestimate how far this goes. And the number that changes how you think about it is this. Before MCP, every AI tool needed its own custom connector for every platform. So N tools times M platforms equals a maintenance nightmare, and MCP collapses that to one implementation per platform, so every AI tool connects automatically. I didn't expect this to be as practical as it is. With the right MCP servers, Cursor becomes a Slack client, an email sender via Resend, and an image generator via Replicate, all from one interface. And the N times M integration problem is actually solved because each platform implements MCP once and every AI tool connects, though MCP Bench at Near IPS 2025 tested this across 28 live servers and 250 tools and found top models score around 0.75. So tool use accuracy is real, but not perfect. What MCP unlocks is real, and it's big. 97 million monthly SDK downloads and 74,000 plus GitHub stars from AWS. GitHub and Notion aren't hype, that's production adoption. And the everything app pattern works today with the honest caveat that even the best models only score around 0.75 on live tool use benchmarks, so it's not flawless. 4 questions answered. So MCP works, it's accessible, and the ecosystem is real. But there are 2 things coming up that could completely change whether you should trust it with your actual workflow, and one of those numbers is going to make you want to audit every MCP server you've already connected before you go any further. 43%. That's the share of tested MCP implementations that had command injection vulnerabilities, according to security research from Equixly. And that's before you get to context bloat, where every server you connect dumps its entire tool schema into your context window and burns thousands of tokens before you type a single word. So these aren't edge cases. They're the default behavior if you're not paying attention. Context bloat is real. Every MCP server dumps its full tool schema into the context window, but a server-side discovery tool can cut that by 91%, so it's fixable. And security is implementation dependent because MCP itself doesn't enforce auth at the protocol level. With Equixly finding command injection in nearly half of tested implementations, 30% SSRF and 22% arbitrary file access, plus long-running tasks break the original design for anything over 30 to 60 minutes. The belief that MCP is production ready out of the box. That's a myth, full stop, because security is on you as the implementer and not the protocol, same way a USB port doesn't protect you from a bad device. 4 out of 5 questions answered, and this is the one that actually bites people who skip the audit step. Alright, so you know the risks. Now the question is, what's the actual shortest path to trying MCP today without needing a computer science degree? Because most guides assume you're already a developer, and that leaves a huge group of people staring at a terminal window, wondering what went wrong. And there are over 3,000 MCP servers available right now, with at least one path to connecting them that requires 0 technical knowledge. I had to run it twice to believe how fast remote MCP actually is. You copy a JSON block from a tutorial, paste it into Claude or Cursor, and it connects immediately. No terminal, no install, no dev experience needed. And all Claude.ai plans support connecting MCP servers to Claude Desktop, though local MCP is a different story and does benefit from some developer experience, so that's not where most people should start. Getting started with MCP is genuinely easy if you pick the right path first, and remote MCP is the move for anyone who isn't a developer, kind of like choosing a hosted service over self-hosting a server. 5 of 6 questions answered, and the entry point is as low as it gets. 1 JSON block, 1 paste, connected. So here's what MCP actually unlocks for you. You can turn Cursor into a Slack client, an email sender, and an image generator without switching apps. You can ask Claude a real business question and get an answer from your actual CRM data instead of a guess. And you stop maintaining a separate connector for every AI tool and every platform, because MCP solves that once. And here's where people get it wrong. First, MCP moves your data to external AI platforms. Wrong. MCP itself doesn't move data, and it depends entirely on where the server runs. Second, it's production ready out of the box. Wrong. Security is your job as the implementer. Third, it handles long tasks natively. Wrong. Anything over 30 minutes breaks the original design and needs the new SEP 1686 task primitive. If you want Claude reading your real data today without writing a single line of code, copy a JSON block into Claude Desktop and you're done. But if you're building for production, audit every server you connect, given that Equixly found command injection in nearly half of tested implementations, and wait for the 2026-07-28 specs stateless core to fully mature before you ship. One thing that catches people off guard after they've connected a few MCP servers is the postmark incident, where a compromised MCP server silently BCC'd every outgoing email to an attacker's domain, and nothing in the UI flagged it. And the reason that's so dangerous is that MCP doesn't log what servers do with your request by default. So if a server goes rogue, you won't know until something downstream breaks. Now that you know how MCP connects Claude to your real tools, the next question most people run into is what Claude can actually build and share on its own. And that's exactly what Claude Skills Explained covers. It's a natural next step from here, and it answers something a lot of MCP users hit pretty quickly once they start building.